Just drove by.
We can start with that.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and start. He just pulled up. Shelley, you ready for us? Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. Comments from the floor. Consider an act on a request for adjustments to or relief from specific charges imposed by the district. Do we have
I
anything?
have nothing for you this month.
Okay. And then as far as the consent agenda, is there any items that need to be removed for further discussion?
I'd like to talk about item 5, please.
5. Okay, any others? If not, do we have a motion to approve the remaining consent agenda items?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All in favor, aye. Opposed, nay?
I want to abstain since I didn't,
Okay,
number 4 to review the minutes.
okay. Then number 5, review and act on the financial reports and disbursements of August 2022.
So I'd like to look at page 5 to begin with. That's the 11 months ended 8/31 for the operating fund. And I noticed that about 3/4 of the way down, the merchant service processing. That's the one that says 5425. There's a big spike in the month, $5,400. That's 65,000 annualized. And of course, year to date, you can see it's 45,000 against a 28,000 year to date budget. And then when we get to the budget approval, you'll see that there's an increasing trend every year. Couple of questions. Why does it spike? Is that just because of the heavy billings during the high usage months, high
Yes.
water usage months?
Yes, and during August, we're collecting payments for the July bills, which were really high, so it should come down this month for August bills.
I thought that would be the case, but are those actual billings for MUD 67, or is that some kind of a ratio based upon total collections? What is it?
I allocate these statements based on each MUD's collections every day. So it is your actual collections, and then that ratio is run through the actual fee, the monthly fee. So each district just pays their portion.
Are there more and more accounts going through this process?
Yes, we
Well, that's the only way you can account for that trend lines.
I have not had notice of a rate increase, because it's the interchange plus, so it's a rate plus the percentage of the actual collection.
Are the percentages holding the same or?
For the e-com, which are the web payments, which is the biggest chunk of what we collect, the method that we collect, they're under 2% still. I just did the statements for last month and they were like 1.8. The retail is very small, that's about 4%, but it's a very small piece.
In terms of usage, you know?
Yes.
Okay.
Very small.
Hmm.
We have a lot of new customers signing up, paying that way.
Good.
But if that's representative of, and we're not, the largest MUD by any means. But in total, what are you talking about? $500,000?
Oh, yeah, I can add that up real quick in a few minutes. But yeah, all the districts, 46 and 7 or higher.
I think the discussion group or the education committee, I don't know where the venue is, but it seems to me that could be a topic for discussion due to the size of that expense annually and appears to be increasing, whether that's, appropriate for all the MUDs.
Leave it on a website, you can pass on those fees to the customer, like add an additional. We already have the transaction fee we're gonna pass on, that's collected, that's nothing to do with this category, but we can add some type of flat fee or percentage.
Well, that's one of the options that needs to be explored, whether that's an appropriate action to take or to propose to either Woodlands Water or the individual MUDs.
We find out what's allowable.
All right, thank you.
Do we have any, excuse me, do we have any idea on what other surrounding MUDs do?
I do not, but I can find out.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Because I know some of the utility companies I deal with personally, from my home, they do charge. Yeah. Okay, the other question I had was on page 40, or page 7. The Panther, Bear Branch, Panther Branch drainage. See, there's a payment that's coming up that's due October 1st from Mud 46. Is that going to be paid in a timely manner?
If it's due in October, then yes, it will be paid.
It's like
I think I budgeted, well,
200 and some odd, 224,000 or
it
something.
is in their upcoming budget
Okay.
areas.
Are there many expenses that have been accumulated that haven't hit the books yet for this?
Probably under $1,000.
Okay.
It's legal fees at this point.
Okay,
That's all we've gotten in.
thank you.
Anything else, Paul?
No, that's one.
Okay. Yeah, then do we have a motion to approve number 5? And a second. Okay, all in favor, aye? Opposed, nay. Moving on to the regular agenda, then number 8, review and act on the budget and the district's draft fiscal year 2022-23 operating budget and recommended water rate structure.
We found that makes more sense to do items 9 and 10 and then come back to 8. So
Okay.
if that's okay with you, let's move to 9 and conduct a public hearing on the tax rate, on the levy, what you intend to levy, and then we can come back to the budget.
Okay, then we'll move on to number 9. If there's no objections,
It's really up to y'all. I mean, I think at the end of the day, these are kind of inextricably intertwined. So if you're talking about the budget, then you're talking about the tax rate. If you're talking about the tax rate, you're talking about budget. So it's really what y'all's preference is, how you want to handle it.
okay,
When we talk
Any
about.
preference?
I just follow the general manager's recommendation.
okay. Then number 9, conduct a public hearing regarding the district's intent to levy a 2022 tax rate.
Right, so this is the second step of the 2-step process that we talked about last month. The board did give direction to Jeannie to publish the district's intent to levy the 2022 tax rate at the top of here at the 0.151359 rate, and that, according to Jeannie, was published in the Courier. So now we need to conduct a public hearing, adjourn the regular meeting, conduct the public hearing to receive any comments on the district's published tax rate, and then we can move on to discussion on the tax rate.
Okay.
I can confirm it was in the Courier. I saw it.
Good.
But I did have one concern since I wasn't at the meeting. It said the person absent, and I didn't recognize who it was because it said absent was Paul Martian. I thought, wow, that's a UFO. So I assume that part is a typo. But I concur with the rest.
Okay. Then, since we don't have any comments from the public, number 10, consider and act upon levy of the district's 2022 tax rate and the adoption of an order in connection therewith.
Tax rate of the 0.151359 is comprised of 0.0925 debt service and 0.058859 maintenance and operations. That is what the budget, that maintenance tax is what the budget was built off of. That results in the negative 328,000. 2023 net income budget. Of course, you can go below what's published, cannot go above without having to republish and start the process over.
Okay. Adam, do you have anything
Sure.
on guidance?
And just to remind you, the way we came up with the overall total tax rate was, since you're considered a developing district, we kept it at the 8%, which is what Senate Bill 2 dictates as a developing district, meaning that anything above that, your residents could petition for a rollback election. But in this case, since you're right at the 8%, you have no issues.
Okay. Do we have any further discussion? Or do we have a motion to approve the rate as we published? So moved. And a second? Any more discussion? If not, all in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Okay. Now come back to 8.
Now we can come back to 8, and your budget was prepared on the 0.151359. Does result in a loss of 328,000. You end the year, 10 months of coverage, which is good. It was a 10.2 month coverage average. Some of the bigger numbers of the sewer repair, that went up from about 200 to 400. There are several sewers and manholes that we'll be repairing in your district. We're putting together the package now with our consultant to be bid in either end of October, 1st of November, for construction scheduled to start December, January. So all the districts that have work will be bid as one project. Each project is separate. Each project will be billed, or each section will be billed to the appropriate mud, but we're getting the economy of scale by putting it all in one package. So that's kind of basically the big number in the budget that changed. If there's any other questions, we'd be glad to talk about those if you want to talk about any specific item. But that was kind of the one that stuck out for us.
So Mike, I know there were 2 people in Mud 67 that were, is this just the first tranche for Mud 67? In other words, is there going to be another inspection?
Yeah, this is just the first phase of it. So we did back in 2019, 2020, we did, I guess, 2020 and 2021, we did the inspections that we had. These are the repairs identified during that inspection that we're going to be repairing now. But we've also got in the budget repairs, inspections and design for year 3. We're in year 3 of this investigation of the 5-year program. We're in year 3 of this, so I'll have some design and some more field investigation, checking manholes, dive water flooding, television inspections, just trying to identify areas. So far, really, we haven't found a bunch of smoking guns. We've had a lot of surface defects with lids knocked off or chipped or something like that my staff is fixing in-house, regrounding the lids back on the manholes. So we're hoping that the combination of what we're doing in-house and what the project will address in the field that we can't do will help Jason and River Authority push off or eliminate a bunch of I&I trouble that they experience at the plants.
Part of the initial report showed Mud 67 with a very high, or at least one section, the northern section, if not the whole mud itself, appeared to have a very high I&I rating.
Yes, it did. It did.
The evidence isn't
Evidence isn't there.
okay. How do we explain that?
A lot of it is, like I said, just manhole tops. Some illegal connections. Some people have tied roof drains into sewers that were cut loose, stuff like that. It's not anything that's requiring a major rehab that we found so far, major overhaul. There's not a bunch of cracks or leaks in the lines, not a bunch of deteriorated pipe or broken joints. Few spots, but nothing really that would be alarming to me. But we'll continue the investigation. Maybe some of the ones that weren't blazing red problems are in the yellow area that still might be considered part of the contributing factors. So,
Okay. Any other discussion? I know last month we talked a little bit about rates, water rates and sewer rates. And I think I'd asked if we could get what some of the surrounding water districts are charging to see if we're competitive. Has there been any more discussion among the other Woodlands MUDs about taking the water rate up?
not thus far. The sewer rate's going up just to match the wholesale, so you can recover your wholesale cost. But the water rates has not been discussed by any of much thus far,
So everybody's still willing to subsidize it a bit.
thus far.
Okay. Okay. From what we need to do right now, then just,
Approve
the budget.
Yeah.
Motion to approve the budget. Okay. Do we have a motion to approve the budget then?
Motion to approve.
Okay, second. Second. All in favor, aye. Opposed, nay. Okay, 11, approval and execution of an amended district information form.
So this is the document that has to get recorded as property records. It reflects your current tax rate and also has attached to it the notice to purchasers is provided to folks when they buy property in the district. Now, if you need to document your 2022 tax rate, you need to update that form and the property records for future residents.
Okay, do you have a motion to that effect?
Still moved.
And a second. All in favor, aye. Opposed, nay.
We need 3 signatures on that.
Yes, need to be directed.
Okay.
Number 12, the Sanjak report.
Sir, our monthly operating report is in your packet. One thing to add to that report is that as of September 1st, it's requested and approved for the MUDs of Woodlands. It's approximately 50% surface water flow. We are 50%, everything's running as it should. If you have any questions operationally, I'll be happy to answer.
Any questions?
If not, I've got Summer and Dan both have updates for you. Okay.
Per the request of some of the directors, we scheduled 2 tour dates, one for the surface water plant, which will be held on October 6th, and then one for wastewater treatment plant 1 on October 20th. There's a copy of the flyer on page 35 of your packet. And we've also had additional requests to have a tour of our water plant in Wells, and then also a tour of the Bear Branch Reservoir as well in dam. So I'm working on coordinating those dates, and we'll share this with you once I have them. And then last week, Jace Houston was a part of a podcast, and I believe you should have received an email with the link of that video.
Okay.
Good afternoon, everybody. So I think I got the rest of the agenda items. Wastewater strategic plan, I'll start there. In your packet, page 36 is the meeting summary from our August 24th progress meeting as a consultant. Over the past couple of months, we've been working with a consultant to prepare for upcoming stakeholder meeting. We added an additional stakeholder meeting that was not on the original approach, we'll say. That is now scheduled for September 28th. The purpose and agenda for that meeting is primarily to discuss and receive input from stakeholders on our approach to developing these cost estimates for the various shortlisted alternatives. You know, what are the inputs? What are the variables, the assumptions, everything, you know, how we present them and compare and contrast them, the metrics, et cetera. And have a discussion on that. So once we get to the November 2nd stakeholder meeting and actually present the numbers and costs for each alternative, there should be more discussion related to those results and path forward versus discussion on how those costs were developed. So we're hoping that this stakeholder meeting here in September provides a mechanism to be more efficient come November and into December, January, when we really do need to start making some critical decisions on path forward for the wastewater strategic planning and one additional agenda item for the September meeting is there'll be a high-level presentation on the membrane bioreactor technology. There's still some shortlisted alternatives out there that are utilizing that technology. We want stakeholders to be informed of what that is, how it compares to the existing conventional treatment methods that we utilize, and the potential pros, cons, et cetera, associated with that technology. I think that's all I have for wastewater strategic plan. Any questions on that one? Infrastructure funding, I don't really have much of an update there. You know, you've heard Ed come in the past recent months here talking about the Congressman Crenshaw's secured $3.6 million for the longer term, bigger project at Bear Branch Dam associated with the spillway and the upstream soil cement. So we're just kind of waiting to hear more information on when we might even see that. Working on that. Bear Branch Dam repairs. So you may recall last month we came and discussed an update on the Bear Branch Dam repairs and talked about how additional kind of overruns in some of the quantities for additional voids that need to be grouted. Some original joints that were not originally identified due to silt and sediment buildup in the Stilling Basin. We have since then gone and made all those additional repairs. The contractor has completed those. We estimated last month that it could be upwards to $60,000 additional on the original contract amount to make all those overruns in quantities and the additional void that came up during the final inspection. So it's all been completed, and there was a final inspection walkthrough this morning. So barring anything that came out of that, which I've not heard of anything, we should be good on all those minor repairs. And we don't have the final numbers yet, but it will be under that $60,000 change order to the original contract amount. So original contract amount was just over, I think, $107,000. So we're looking at 167. Change order on our SRA board agenda for tomorrow morning for official approval too. Yeah. Any questions on the minor repairs? The other one here is the Bear Branch Dam low flow vault update. So we discussed that a little bit last month also. We are working over the next 4 to 6 weeks on developing a small procurement package where we can go out and solicit quotes from various contractors for them to come and so basically procure and install that new low flow valve vault lid that hopefully will be, you know, a bigger deterrent against vandalism and breaking locks off, but also having fall protection grading underneath it. So that project is moving forward. Okay. Then one other note that's not on here is tomorrow at SRA board meeting. There's an agenda item on there for consideration and approval of the second supplemental agreement for the O&M agreement between the MUDs and SRA. So that's up there. Okay, any other questions for me?
Any questions? Thank you. Brian.
Yes, sir. The attorney's report, I've been talking to boards about the fact that we're looking at RNS 60. We touched on it at policy number RNS 60. We touched on it at the trustee meeting last week, and it's in your packet as well. There's RNS 60 deals with customer accounts that are delinquent and turnoffs. So we have language in there that before someone is turned off, they are notified either by a hand delivery of a door tag at their house or by certified mail. In practice, what we've done is provide that through the in-person door hanger. That's gotten a lot more expensive, according to staff, to continue to fund that. If it's inflation or labor costs or what. So they're looking to see if there's a more cost-effective way to still reach folks. I mean, we have a very small number of folks that actually get cut off in the Woodlands, but still, for those people in that situation, we want to make sure that we meet all the legal requirements as well as make best efforts to advise people before, you know, critical service like water would be turned off. We've checked the TCEQ rules, PUC rules, statutes, and case law, and it does not appear that there's a legal requirement that it has to be a door hanger. There's a PUC rule that's not directly applicable to us, but I think we've kind of complied with that requires for in-person delivery or delivery by mail. I think if we go by a mail delivery as opposed to in-person, we probably want to supplement that to the extent that we could through some other sort of outreach, whether it be an e-blast or some other notification to them before they would be turned off in case there was a issue about didn't get it in the mail or whatnot. And it may end up, being that it's not worth changing from the in-person delivery if we think that there's not good enough alternative means to be able to ensure that people receive the notice before their water would be turned off. But we are taking a look at that. If at a minimum, we need to revise that policy to remove the certified mail, because that's just that all somebody has to do is just refuse to accept the mail, and then you're getting that back, and then you've got no way to confirm that you were able to provide notice to somebody. So we'll probably need to revise that at a minimum to address that, and then maybe also to handle some supplemental electronic notices. But more to come there. But that's all I have to report under item 13 today.
Okay. Any questions for Brian? Thanks, Brian.
Yep.
Number 14, status of proposed annexation. Dan's not here. Do you
Yeah, we
think?
finally got the remainder of the documentation that we needed from LJA. So we are ready to go. We sent out the petition to be signed by the Howard Hughes entity that owns the property. There's no lien holder at this point, so we don't have to track the lien holder down. So as soon as we get that signature back from the development company, the landowner, then we'll be ready to submit an application.
Okay.
So I'm hoping by the end of the week we get the signature back.
Okay. So no action today.
No action, because you already approved at a previous meeting a while back. You approved the petition to the city.
Okay.
We need these documents signed.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we're getting new signature pages because it's just been a while. We want those to, more recently submit the package, but you already approved the petition a number of months ago.
Okay. 15, receive and act on update regarding the Bear Branch, Panther Branch, and Research Forest Drive Drainage Improvement Project.
If you remember last month, we awarded the contract to LJA. We solicited 3 bids. We had LJA came out on top. And now we're just finalizing it. We're just working on developing the scope of work. We hope to bring that to you for your meeting to get that kicked off. As Brian says, more to come.
Okay. So nothing else to do there. Go ahead.
Question. What's the process for getting the executed contract? Is it between LJA and Woodlands Water Management and SJRA?
No, it's not 67. That would be the contract will be in your name. LJA will be kind of administering the contract on our behalf.
Who's negotiating the contract with LJA from our side?
Jim and I will be involved in it along with SJRA staff.
It seems like we're burning a lot of daylight here. It's taking a long time to get to this point, it seems to me. Is there any way that we can, because the contract itself is going to be a multi-year contract, 1 year to get to the first deliverable, which will determine whether we even proceed with the concept or not, as I understand it.
Yeah.
So, we knew this was approved by the state in what, March?
Yeah. Because we closed.
Or in September?
Yeah.
But we had an extension, though, I believe.
We closed this summer.
Yeah, so we picked our consultant last month and now we're just trying to hammer out a scope just so we cover all the bases so we can get to the end of the first deliverable and make sure we've got everything covered. Either make the decision to go forward or chop it off. I think we'll have something to present to you next month.
That's October something, and then it has to go to the state, as I understand it, for some kind of approval.
I think the intention would be simultaneously getting any review and comments from TWDP. Prepare all scope of work
What do you mean simultaneously?
simultaneously
To what?
it is viewed by Woodlands Water and by 67.
Oh, so they would be reviewing it independent, or they do not require MUD 67 board approval prior to their review? I guess that's my question.
We would need TWDB's approval before we issue LJA a notice to proceed.
So, I'm sorry, you said you would?
We would, yes.
Yes. Well, what about my question? Does the Woodlands Water Board need MUD 67 approval before they will okay it?
I don't think so. Because the way we've done it at SDRA is most of the time we get approval from the development board before our board of directors approves the contract, because if state Texas Water Development Board comes back with requested changes after our board already approves it, it turns into like
Yeah.
a cyclical process.
Right.
So preferably you would want, any comments from Water Development Board prior to the execution of the contract, but
Okay.
there is some documents that they need for records after the execution of the document too. Following back.
So back to your comment about it would be ready for our October board meeting. So does that mean it can be submitted to the development board?
I think
Prior
what
to
the
that.
intent is we probably submit it here and to the TWDB at the same time.
We are in communication with them right now.
Okay.
And I think, Paul, part of your, not really question, but I think the process we went through to select a consultant firm was originally unanticipated. I think that added some additional time to do that process correctly.
You say unanticipated.
Well, I think we added, or it was through discussions with Sept, Woodlands Water, to go out and solicit statement of qualifications for
Right.
various firms and go through that process. So I think that added some time into getting up to where we are today.
Instead of just taking LJ or
Yeah.
hiring somebody. Yeah, just.
I don't know, Jim suggested that we interview several, just,
I think that's,
make it transparent and wise.
I concur. So, okay. But this perhaps this is a big ticket item to have a lot of eyes on it and just needs some priority. And for lack of a better term, a project manager that's driving this thing.
understood. And we're in constant contact with Ed. Ed's done many of these, and I think Dan's done several of them as well. We're kind of new to the arena. I haven't done a TWDB project in years. Don't know about Jim, but kind of relying on our consultant and our co-workers to help us.
Well, two directors participated in the rating of those firms, and appreciated the process. I thought it was objective, and not saying we shouldn't have done that, and move it along.
Move along. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. 16, receive and act upon staff information regarding the upcoming MCAD Board of Directors election for the term office 22-23.
So this is actually for a vacancy. I think the language on here was from the previous election cycle for MCAD's Board of Directors, but there's actually a vacancy that's arose from a board member who's moved out of the area and no longer can serve. Believe that person, according to Keeney, was appointed by the Montgomery Independent School District. So the board has discretion on who they want to seat. We can provide nominations as a taxing jurisdiction. They can heed the nomination or go in a different direction if they'd like. We went ahead and put this item on all the agendas in case the boards would like to support a particular candidate. MUD 1 supported Walt Pashesky, who is a director on that board, as well as he's been involved with the DSC, some folks have said, and a number of other organizations. He was also supported by, so additional nominations for him were made by MUD 60, MUD 47, MUD 39, and MUD 6. MUD 7 did not support any candidate. Metro MUD supported a individual who had a personal relationship with one of the directors, and the director on Metro Center Mud thought that he would be a good fit. So nominated that individual, but those are the two that have been nominated to date. If y'all want to support one of those candidates, we could do a motion to nominate one of those candidates. I don't know that it would be helpful to go and nominate a third candidate at this point, because all we do is kind of dilute our persuasiveness. I mean, none of this is binding, but the more nominations you have for a particular candidate, the more useful it is. Or you can take no action. We just want to earn all the agendas to give directors a chance to talk about it.
Okay. Any feeling as far as wanting to support any of the existing candidates, or just take a pass on this?
So Walt has been a major contributor to the community as a whole, and not only the MUD, but the Standards Committee, which is a very important committee to the Woodlands Township. And if he's expressing an interest in this, I would support his candidacy. I know of his work. I've watched him in action, and I think he would do a good job.
And I concur with Paul. Walt has got a deep connection to the Woodlands, and I'd support him as well. Awesome. Okay. Any further discussion? Do we have a motion then to support Walt for this position?
Go ahead.
I'll make the motion.
Okay, second.
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.
How do you spell his name?
That's what I call it, Walt.
Let's go get Mike once more back.
I just write Walt.
Walt. Everybody knows Walt.
Okay, Mike, the general manager report.
A couple things. The Woodlands Water Agency budget was approved by the trustees last week. That also included passing along a portion of the online and credit card purchases that we're charged a fee for. As you know, or you may not know, but we are charged 85 cents per transaction, and the Audit and Finance Committee authorized us to pass along 50 cents of that to the customer before we were absorbing it all. So we're going to start that up this next go around, October bill, start that 50 cent pass through to the customer for any online or credit card purchases. There's a complimentary letter in the packet for Josh Akins, an elderly customer of ours. We're happy to get those and happy to present those to you. There's a couple of Lone Star guys running for Lone Star that came to the trustee meeting. If you're interested in that, there's a campaign paper in the packet if you want to read that. And I'll answer questions if you have them about anything else in the report.
Okay. Any questions for Mike?
So on page 47, about mid-page there, where it talks about lead and copper rule revisions.
Yep.
Is that an issue for us in Woodlands Water?
It's an issue for everybody, although we do have some copper service lines. We don't have any lead service lines, but we do have some copper.
You know approximately where they are, or any in Mud 67?
Mostly in mud 6, 67, and some in Metro. Sorry, 36 in Metro. Mostly in
Older
districts. Some in the old mud 40 or mud 1, but very few. Okay. But yeah, so that's going to start soon.
Any other questions? Thanks, Mike. Paul, trustees report.
I don't have much more to add to what was already presented. Looks like the interest rates that you're projecting at 2% are going to be very conservative. We should outperform on that portion of the budget. Well, up another 3/4 today. And the amount is interesting on page 48 on the accounting investment. Funds invested at month end are down about $8 million from a year ago. As of month end. That's just an interesting statistic, but it shows that cash is being reduced, cash on hand.
Any questions for Paul? Thanks, Paul. Closed session time? Okay. So then 20 is dispensed with as well. Any matters to be placed on a future agenda?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to request, I'm sure it's going to be on the agenda every month anyway, but I'd like to make it formal, that the Bear Branch, Panther Branch Drainage Improvement Project be a highlighted agenda item every month.
A good idea.
Yeah.
Any other items? If not, we stand adjourned. Thank you, everyone.